Good evening. We are looking at transformation, and the month of March is a really nice theme. Steve Proctor gave us this theme, and I'm very excited about it. It's about getting off the pews or getting off the benches and onto the court. So we'll do something a little bit different during the month of March. I'm going to do the first lesson tonight, and then we will have a guest speaker for the next 3 Wednesdays. There's a lot of reasons for that. 1, my sister's coming. 2, I'm getting home between 9 and 10 o'clock every night, so I'm not getting time to do what else I need to do, which is prepare for Exodus. I've got 3 more lessons for Exodus, and so I need 3 Wednesday mornings instead of doing this. So we're all getting involved. And you know, this is a wonderful time to talk about this as I look at this congregation and I see we're all involved. So I don't know how you get people more motivated than what we already are. Just looking across the audience tonight, you know, before we dismissed to classes, we got a pretty full congregation, which means that's what happens when you get busy. When we talk about the parable of the talents, we're talking about probably the best parable of getting involved. Now, we've talked about it several times, but when I looked at what could I do tonight about that, this is the only one that really talks about that. How many of you have played a sport? Anybody? Everybody? Okay. How many of you can remember sitting on a bench? Okay, so maybe you were very good at football and you were on the field all the time, and when it came to basketball, you sat on the bench all the time, or vice versa. Which one of those pictures looks like the guy's happy? You probably know who that is. He's apparently a very good player. But he didn't look happy sitting on the bench there, especially because he's the only guy. But he's so big, he looks like he needs about 3 benches to sit on. So where are you right now? Are you on the bench or are you on the field? And what is he talking about in the parable of the talents? Is he talking about a physical bench or is he talking about a spiritual bench? Is he talking about how we invest our talents in the world, or spiritually or physically? I think spiritually, primarily spiritually. There's a lot of churches that are so physically minded that they use this as a very big guilt thing. I do think that there is a physical ramification because if this is my theory, and I was talking to Darrell about this tonight, and maybe some other people as well, but if you had to take away all the Christians out of this world, what would happen to this world? If all the Christians immediately cease to exist in this world, I think this world would cease to exist. I really think so. I think Jesus' hand holding this world together in his hand, and his hand doesn't seem to be his head, it seems to be his body, and this is his body right here. Now that's just my theory, but I believe that the world is a better place today because Christ is in the world, but he's in the world because of you. So if you sit here, and that's the realm of your Christianity, then this world is in a very, very bad place. I also think that in Chuck's early days, he preached some really heavy lessons. I mean, I think he got some people really, really excited. Because when I come in here, after there's been an event, the next day, if it was mostly the young people that were in this building the day before, then I see little things here and there. But I'll always see a couple from this congregation. I won't tell you who they are. They don't get paid to do this. Nobody calls them. They come through this building and they pick everything up. Did you know that? You maybe think, oh, you know, we could just leave a pizza box over here and it'll be fine. No, they'll come in the next day and they'll actually go throw that big pizza box away. That's amazing. And I think it's because when they were young, Chuck scared the living daylights out of some of you all. and you just can't quit, you know. And so it's time for the rest of us to get just as into this game. I don't mean that he may have scared you. He may have preached grace so wonderfully we just all wanted to get involved. But however it works, we need to understand that this is an involvement thing. It's not about just a few people sitting back and the rest going. So where are you? Either kingdom kid on the court or Satan's slothful sun-tanning son. So I like it putting that sentence together. All right, let's go for our text. And if you have your Bibles, you can open to Matthew 25. I want to recommend to you, those of you who like to have tablets or laptops, you're welcome to bring them with to the services. eSword is a really good program. It's free, and there's a very good note-taking part in eSword. You can take a lot of really good notes. You can copy the text and things like that. And if you get into that, I'll tell you where you can get a lot of other good resources. The only paid resource that I would push a little bit is all of SIBI's library. You know, we paid $7,000 for that. All those books electronically are available for $50 working with eSword. That's a pretty good little tool. So when we look at the text, and what I want you to do is a little bit of what we did last week with meditation. I want us to see if we still got some of those skills. Look at verse 14. What does that verse speak to you? What does it say to you? What is coming out at you? What's just jumping out? Just verse 14. For it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. See, you're going to see the same thing if you just looked at it just casually. And because it's in a class, you may not really get time to think about it. But think about it. What's jumping at you? It. Why is it jumping at you? For it. Okay, for it means this is a judgment thing. There are 3 judgment parables. And he's continuing from the 10 virgins. He's going to go into this one. Then he's going to do the sheep and the goats. So that puts the context, right? All right, that's excellent. For it will be like a man going on a journey. What man do you know went on a journey? Philippians 2 verses 5 through 11 is a hint. Philippians chapter 2 verses 5 through 11. Have the same mind that was in Christ. Remember? And he didn't think himself proud to hold on, but he emptied himself, becoming like a man, right? He went on a journey, didn't he? Where's Christ right now? So his journey was here, and now his journey is back there. And what's going to happen? What's the next phase of the journey? He's going to come back, right? So that parallels this parable right here. For it will be like a man. So I'm going to think, well, maybe Jesus. Going on a journey. A journey could be a Sabbath day journey, 2,000 yards. A journey could be 15 to 20 miles, which was a typical journey when you were in Israel. If you and I go on a journey, what do? Sharon, we didn't cover it when you were at Disney. We purposely talked about it. We said we can't cover it. But we hope you had a good time. But that's a journey, right? So you pack certain things, you get your suitcases, and maybe you go with a car or airplane, and you get the journey, you plan it, you look forward to it. There's a lot that goes into a journey. My sister packed her suitcase 2 months ago to come here. She said she's going to unpack it again before she leaves, and then she's going to wash everything. Yesterday, I didn't want to tell my wife, but she said, can you go back for me one? Chris, can you go back to the previous screen? I'm just farming there a little bit. We're going to still meditate. But Darwin, she said she bought some rubber shoes, just in case it was raining. She's been going back and forth. We said, no, don't pack gloves, don't pack this in. But, that's what happens when you go on a journey. So Jesus didn't just come here. I mean, there was a specific time. If you had to ask any of our Bible Bowl kids, from Sarah would know this, right, Rebecca? Sarah would know. Does Sarah know all the genealogies in Matthew? Pretty close. 14, 14, 14, right? She knows all those. Amazing, right? Jesus didn't just happen to come here. I mean, it was all planned, and the genealogies will tell you just how it was planned. Even with Mary and Joseph's genealogies coming together as a priest and a king lineage. So, who called his servants. Now, if you have if you have that eSword or just a little bit of Bible software, you can look up that word, and you can see there's something wrong with that word in our English text. It's not servant. Now, so look at your Bibles and tell me, some of you have different versions of the Bible. What do your Bibles say for that word servant? Okay, what's it? Bondservants or slaves? It's actually a slave. The word servant is diakonos. The word slave is doulos. It's a different word. It's got a completely different meaning. How come we are Christ's slaves? When did we become his slave? How did that happen? Oh, he bought us. Now that's pretty bad because now we're slaves, right? Or is that a good deal? It's a good deal. Why? It's all. What's that? He's a good master. Yes, yes. He'll provide for us. Exactly. We don't have to worry. He'll take care of us. Right, Jesus? What did we say Sunday morning? You know, if it works out, it's all God, right? It's nothing to do with us, right? So he provides for us. Okay. But here's the deal, and it's a really good deal. You guys got a bargain. You get to live for eternity. Do you know that? Because he bought you. You know who he bought you from? Your other master. Yeah, how was he? How was that working out? So we're in a really good place here, right? So this is what happens when you meditate on a scripture. Just any scripture. You can sit for hours. We can sit for 6 months on this one verse here. Yes? You look in Galatians 5:1. We're going to come to Galatians 5:1 just a little while, right? You got it. So we really, this is going to climax right there. This is really good. And watch here. And entrusted to them his property. Does that sound like a bad deal? He entrusted you. What does that mean, to entrust you? How many of you have some incredible things and you entrust your children? How about when you, for the very first time, let your teenager drive the car? How was that? That's scary, right? You entrust them with what? With everything, with the lives of everybody else in the car. So you're entrusting a lot, and he is. He's entrusting souls. To them, his property. What is his property? The cows or the cattle on 1,000 hills, everything that you look at, everything you see, everything you know belongs to him. To one he gave 5 talents, so you can see them there. 5, to another one he gave 2, and another one 3. And then he went away. Where did he go? To the Father, right? He's at the right hand of the Father, according to 1 John 1, verse 18. So now the next slide will show you what a talent is worth. And this is today's research. You can go and take it. It's a Y chart. So with a Y chart, you can slide it to 5 days, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. So a lot of you may be familiar with this. It's a very useful tool. But I took it on just here for this 5-year period, which it's on that one over there. And you can see how people's hourly wage has gone up. This is the average American hourly wage, is $25.39 times 8 gives you 203. That's 8 hours a day is what I worked at. If somebody's working 8 hours a day, 1 talent is 10,000 working days. So basically, a talent is, with today's market, right as it is today, is worth $2.031 million. So let's just round it off to $2 million. That's what the 1 talent guy got. Okay, how many of you would say your life is worth $1 million? Okay, right, it's not unrealistic in today's terms. How many of you got insurance? I've got indemnity insurance for my counseling worth $3 million. So that's not a weird thing. So you look at today's terms and you see the guy with 5 talents had 5 times 2, which is 10 million, or 2 times is 4 million, and the lowest that anybody had would have been 2 million. So it's a lot that he entrusted with. So let's go to the next slide and just let's look at how it looks like that. There you see the master giving out the talents. They're holding it. I want you to think a little bit about meditation, as in this artist had to think about that. Is there anything that you see there in what the artist was thinking about as he looked at that, as he was thinking it through? Everybody seems to be okay, right? Does anybody look scared? They all look okay, right? When you're baptized, the day you're baptized, everybody's okay, right? You're fine. You're okay. When we come out of that water, we all are given something according to our ability. And what we are given is what belongs to Him. He entrusts us with something. And so the question we have to ask is, what are we going to do with that? Let's go to verse 16. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them and he made 5 talents more. So is it going to go over to the next slide? There it is. How quick did this happen? He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. Was it quick? All right. If it was you, if you'd just been given $10 million, Jesus had just given you $10 million, spiritual dollars, what would you do with it? Would you go out like immediately and start working? What would you do? How many of you would maybe think about it a little bit? Okay, I think maybe, I'm not in the investment world, but I think your husband, if somebody had to call him and say, I got 10 million, he'd say, okay, give me an hour, maybe a day, and I'll get back to you. I don't think, so I know it says immediately, but I'm trying to think this thing through. Verse 17, so also, which means he did exactly the same. The second guy did the same thing. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. So again, you've got to think about what is happening here. You see the 5 becomes 10, the 2 becomes 4, the 1 becomes a 1. This one's going to get taken away and it's going to be given to this guy. So this 10 guy will eventually have 11 talents. So let's go to the picture there, Chris, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, again, the artist is thinking about this. Here you have the one guy doing that. The other 2 guys went and did exactly the same thing. There he goes. This is probably the first talent guy with the 10 talents or 5 talents. He does this. The 2 talent guy goes and does this, and this is what the 1 talent guy does. Which one's life do you think changed the most? Which one's life changed the least? Okay, which one would have had the most interesting story at the end of life? And which one would have had the boring story? Yes, and I think it's basically 2 camps, because the 2 of them are doing exactly the same thing. That one guy is the same thing that everybody with 1 talent would do. They are slothful. Now you see why I've said slothful. He's lazy. He gets given something and he's lazy with it. So we go to verse 19 and we see what happens with the 5 talents. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. Can you see the contrast in that in verse 19? Meditate on it a little bit. Can you see a contrast? It's not too obvious. All of us get trapped with this. We all think we have a long time, right? So what happens if you have a long time? What's easy to do if you know you have a long time? Sit back and wait. What's that? Put it off? I haven't heard procrastinate yet. Somebody said procrastinate? Oh, procrastinate, right? Very easy to procrastinate. But look at the contrast. Look at what it says there. Now, after a long time, there's the procrastination of those. The master of those servants came and settled accounts. So what does that tell you? Everybody is going to give an account. We're all going to go through the same situation, the same arena. It's almost like I've got a word. It's in my other language. It's called a drukgang. It's a funnel where you push the animals through. All the sheep are like this, but then it comes to a narrow point, and every sheep has to go through there. But they think they're all going to go this way, but they're all going to have to go through individually. And that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be putting it off. You shouldn't be procrastinating. You should be working today as if right now He's coming. Every single moment of your life should be about His business and full of energy. So there's the contrast. Can we put it off? Can anyone avoid this? Okay, we can put it off, but and what happens when you put it off? I'll tell you what happens when you put it off. Somebody else is working really hard because they're picking up your slack. Does that make sense? And you forget about it. Steve?
The important part here is that right here it says after a long time he came back.
Yes.
He left, he didn't
Yes.
It happened to be a long time.
Exactly.
But they didn't know that.
Yes.
The 2 went out immediately.
Yes. And you know, it can be relatively a long time, or it can be that phone call that we heard about. It can be a very short time. But all of us, when we are baptized, we think we have a long time. All of us. We just naturally assume that. So, we're going to have that mindset.
When he came back, he didn't wait any time to settle accounts. It was immediate.
That was the other thing, right? The moment he comes back, and you don't know when, you don't know the hour, but immediately he's going to start settling accounts. So that's really things, and as I said, I don't think the older generation have a problem with that. I think it's the 18 to 22s that think that they've got all the time in the world. And they don't. Because whatever you're doing at that point in your life, you probably can project it. That's what the rest of your life is going to be like. What will be the purpose of his coming back, of his coming? To settle accounts. Knowing this, what changes should you make? What is life about? Seriously, what is life all about? With this in mind. It's about Christ coming back. That's what it's about. How important is the kingdom stuff? How important is the world stuff? How important is it that you focus your children towards being trained in the kingdom stuff? How important is it that we are showing the world and the kids and everybody that we are training for the kingdom? Now, it's really important. I don't think Summit has missed it. I think, think about Sarah that knows the whole of Matthew. That's crazy. And this is not the first generation we're doing this either, right? We've been doing Bible Bowl for a long time. I think the congregation gets that. But I hope that we get it more. I encouraged all of my boys, as much as what they would listen without manipulating and telling them or making them feel guilty, to seriously consider working full-time in the kingdom. I really wanted them to understand. Why would I say that if I didn't believe that? I really want you guys to go and you'll never be rich, you'll never have all the money in the world, you'll always struggle, the Lord will move you all over the place, but I want you to do that. Why? Why would I do that? And I'm telling you folks, look at that last thing again. Knowing this, what should you make? What changes should you make? Really think it through. Are you really happy with the direction of your life, the direction of the next generation, the example that you're giving them? So we go to the next slide, and it's a picture, and it's a dynamic picture. You can see this guy, this master, he's energetic, he's businesslike, it's factual, he can't wait to come back, and something's going to happen. Verse 19, now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. Look at verse 20. And he who had received, let's go to the next one, Chris. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward. Is that how you imagine judgment to be? Do you imagine that we're all standing there and you actually step forward to judgment? Is that what you would do? Or do you think you would step back? See, what we get is with this fear, guilt, and anger type of theology, is we get the idea that judgment is a very scary thing. And it's not really according to this. It's not a scary thing for those who are prepared for it. It's a scary thing for those who weren't prepared, for the lazy, for the slothful. And they'll know. Some of them, according to Matthew 7:21, won't know, but I think the majority will know. So he came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. So how do you do that? Let's pretend it's not God. Let's pretend, in my case, I've got 3 boys, and I want to present those 3 boys to my parents. I never was able to do that for a lot of different reasons, but I would have loved for my parents to have seen my 3 boys. And they could have. It's just circumstances were such that we couldn't do that. But if I did bring my boys and introduce them to my parents, how do you think I would have done that? Do you think I would have had them back and walked in front because they're so excited to see me? Or do you think I would have had them in front and said, hey, look here, this is what's happened, right? I wouldn't think they want to see me. I'd want to show them the children. That's what we'd be excited about. And so that's what I'm thinking is happening here. I think as the guy walks forward with the 5 talents, I don't think he's saying, yeah, Lord, here's your 5 talents. I think he's got the 5 talents hanging on the side of his arm here, and his leg here, and he's got the other 5 that he made, and he's putting them forward, and he's proud of them. And it's not 5 talents like money. It's souls. Lord, thank you for giving me that salvation. And look, Lord, yes, everybody that's coming along with me. Isn't that great? Don't you think that would be a wonderful thing? Don't you think you'll be excited about that? Verse 21, in bold, his master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Profit sharing with a master, is that a scary thing? I don't think so. I think it's an absolute privilege. And I hear a lot of people when they do the prayer for the giving on Sunday, they talk about that it's a privilege to be part of the Lord's kingdom. And that's just a symbolic thing. It's actually everything. That's physical. It's actually spiritual. It's everything that you have, that you do, that you're involved in. So what does this mean to you? Is this a scary thought to you, Dan?
Not on that statement, but
Yes.
slide before this one.
Yes.
I always felt guilty, about not being a preacher or a great teacher or something like that. So finally I realized that if all of us were that way, who would support those who do it? So those who don't have that talent, but we can support, and this is where the giving comes in, to be cheerful.
Yeah.
Be glad that you can support those who have that talent
Yeah.
to do what you and your boys do.
Exactly. So we're going to come to that when we look at the body and the makeup of the body. And I think, let's think, are you going to talk, Bill, about Ephesians chapter 4 eventually? That'll be in next week, right? So Bill is a graduate degree in education. He's been teaching for 20 years. I've been listening to him teach. Incredible teacher. I think you'll enjoy that. But you're going to see we all got different gifts.
A lot of people who have talents that other people know nothing about.
That's the other thing, yeah. Behind the scenes. But if you look at your Christian life and you look at how you've lived your life, and I've looked at how you've lived your life, you've been a servant. You have worked. You have helped. You've done everything. So in whatever circumstance you find yourself, you need to be productive. Let me just bring up a real scary question right now, and it'll bring it in focus. How many times have you heard in this congregation somebody say, we need teachers? Right? How many times have you heard, maybe not publicly, but quietly, I wish the younger generation would step up a bit more? Right? So everybody needs to get involved. Everybody needs to get busy. Wherever you are with whatever you've been given, God has given you just exactly what you need right now. Yes, and we need a lot of encouragement. So, and that's happening. I mean, I really see it, and you see it, and we all see it. It's happening. This congregation is really understanding it. And the older generation, the years that you have, there's talent. The pain that you've had, the wounds that you've had, there's talent there that you've learned from those wounds. God may not have caused those wounds, but you learn from them. So it shouldn't be a scary thing. We should be really okay with this. Now let's go to looking at some of the things that was following up on this. What have you been given? What skills do you have? And here's some of what we've been talking about. They fall into 2 categories, Mary and Martha, relationship and task. Are you more relationship or are you more task? And then from there on, just look down the list. And again, Bill will talk a little bit more specifically about this type of thing. Some people are good organizers. Some people are good at cooking. Some people are good listeners. They're compassionate. Pinterest, I think that's about arts and crafts, right? Is that right? It's about art. Some people are really good at that type of stuff. Some people have a lot of energy. Some people don't have energy, but they have something else. Life experiences, finances, wounds, that's one I spoke about. Some people are really good at prayer. The warfare that we fight, is it a spiritual or a physical warfare? Spiritual. So how important is prayer? Do we have enough people praying? Then right at the bottom of the list, is the teacher, the preacher, the leaders, and the elders and the servants, right? I put the elders right there with the servants. That's at the bottom, according to Jesus, that's at the bottom of the barrel. And that's how it ought to be. So the greatest servant is it. And then you can look at this scripture here. It'll tell you he's apportioned to each one individually as he will. So each one of us is exactly where we should be right now. But when I talk about what I said, when we talk about the next generation coming up, you should tell them about working for the Lord. When I think about Chris and the Guins taking their summer vacation to go on a mission trip, what do you think about that? What's that teaching the next generation? What's that teaching the kids, you see? So we need to step up into the fact that the kingdom is really, really important. This earth is very, very temporary. And we need to be very bold in communicating that. So look at that picture there of the guy, and you see what he's holding there. Which one do you think is what he collected, and which one do you think is what God gave him? Do you think God gave him this one or this one? Yes, all of them. But I think that's what he originally had. I think that's what he's proud of. I think, that, Lord, thank you for saving me, but Lord, here's my children. Here's the people that you entrusted with me. I think we're so proud of that. That's what I'd be. I'd be more proud of presenting the Lord who else has come in than the fact that I got in. Okay, going to the next question. Where does God want me to use my gifts? In 1 Peter 4:10, we'll talk about these scriptures throughout this month. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. So a lot of different gifts. And then also verse 14, he entrusted. So now tell me if this statement here is true or false. This one in caps. Whatever he gives me, now he will ask me later, what did you do with it? True or false? True. So why not ask that question now? And then you be one of those that step forward instead of the guy thinking about the excuses he's going to have to make up. And I bet you that one talented guy was thinking about the excuses he was going to have to give. We'll see how well that worked for him. Okay, verses 14 to 30. Looking at verse 22. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of the master. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So no rules. And this comes a little bit into Galatians 5, Cheryl, that we talked about. I don't think we're going to get to that verse, but it's there. It's a few slides on. So no rules, no special instructions. Why not? Why did he not give special instructions? He didn't tell us what to do with the talents, did he? He just gave the talents and then he went away. One guy went and traded, another guy went... Yes, Steve?
Well, they've been servants of this guy for quite some time. They know how he works. They know what he wants things done with.
Okay, very good.
Think that after they're seeing him work,
Okay.
he gives you something to work with. You know how he wants you to work.
Okay, what about the things that you know you ought to do, sins of omission, that you don't do? Because that's the 1 talent guy. I knew you were a very scary guy, so I buried your talent. Sin of omission. So it's not just what you're doing, it's what you're not doing. So yes, we really got to know the mind of Christ to know what he wants us to do. So basically you take responsibility. You don't have excuses. You've got the time. Make the time. Don't tell me you don't have time. We all have time. We're just going to make the time. And that might be through delegation. So 2 plus 2 is 2. Let's go on to verse 24 through 27. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid. Here come the excuses. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. You have what is yours. And he wants to give it back. And Jesus says, you wicked, slothful servant, you knew that I reap, and so on. And he takes the money away, or he tells him he should have given with the bankers. All right, let's look at the next slide. Dream big dreams. There's only one person who slept like a baby that night that he was given everything. The guy who had 1 talent, he slept that night. He didn't think about it. The guy who had been given 2 talents and 5 talents, I don't think they slept that night. I think they were wondering and what am I going to do with all of this? They were excited. They were dreaming big dreams. We ought to be dreaming big dreams. Tell me, folks, what are we doing to, in a major way, change our community? What are we doing? Think about that. Okay, go on to the next one. And you'll see there's a picture. You'll see the guy's kind of reaching out to touch Jesus, and he's got this one thing like, this is so precious, and Jesus is not interested in that. He's not interested in excuses that you have in your mind. And then finally, verse 28, so take the talent, give it to him as 10 talents. Everyone who has more will be given to him. And then the next slide is what I promised that I would end with here, which is the 1 talent excuses versus the 5 talent example. That's your choices. For freedom, Christ set us free, right? We're not told that we have to do it this way. You are free to either get involved with summer camps,